Good morning and welcome to our weekly question and answer with our doctors here at Tesla Longevity Center. My name is Talon Ellithorpe. I'm the practice manager. And I'm joined today with Dr. Rita Ellithorpe, our medical director and founder. Today we're going to be talking about a couple things, focusing mostly on some updates, some news on the coronavirus, what you can do to prevent getting it, prevent the transmission of it. Of course, what to do if you think that you have a cold or a flu, and that's accompanied by a fever, some steps that you can take. And then finally, we're going to be talking about some new and exciting research that is just coming out about IV vitamin C as a treatment for the coronavirus. Dr. Ellithorpe, why don't you tell us a little bit, before we jump into the coronavirus, how the recent Detox with Your Doctor program is going?
Well, we had, I believe, 20 people join us this time with our detoxing.
Yes.
And several of the staff, again, we always join in when we detox together. And we're about day 4 for me, because I didn't start Friday. I wound up starting on Sunday. So it is going very, very well. The Facebook, it's fun to see the comments and the helpful suggestions
Yes.
and the encouragement, for everyone there. And I have been enjoying mixing my protein shake for detoxification with some cocoa powder, Hershey's Mix, just plain cocoa powder. I put in 2 tablespoons when I make it. And then I do add the low-carb coconut milk to it. That's my sweetener or liquid.
Right.
And then I have been adding some of my Parent Essential Clinician's Preference essential fatty acid liquid to it, maybe about 2 teaspoons. And then I do add frozen berries, and it tastes delicious. And I purposely let it spin longer so it thickens for me. And I leave mine, it almost is like eating a pudding. So it's very, very good. It's very easy for me to do this detox.
Right.
And the menus are good, staying on a very healthy, low-carb protein and fiber-rich vegetable twice a day, and eating in that window between noon and 6 p.m. And, I feel good. I lost 6 pounds on the last time we did it, and so now I've lost another 2. And so I'm just enjoying communicating and being with my patients doing this. And are you on it at the same time? You
yes.
are. How are you doing on it?
I'm doing great. I love detoxing, and for those of you that are unfamiliar, we once a month, typically we're doing a detox, and it's a program that's really a detox in a box that helps us to deal with the ongoing assault, because we live in a toxic world. Helps us eliminate those toxins, help us flush that with a phase 1, phase 2 detoxification program that's supported by nutrition, and we do it around a group support event that we're doing with our patients. So I'm feeling wonderful, clear-headed, my energy is up, and it just feels good to kind of get reset.
Have you gained the 2 pounds I've lost?
No, I'm pretty stable.
Okay, well, good. Well, I hope you're enjoying it as well.
And this is a live Q&A, so if you're joining us right now live, feel free to post your questions in the comment section of the chat area, and we're monitoring that, and we'll ask Dr. Ellithorpe any questions you have about any health topics. But while we wait on that, why don't we just do some updates, Doctor? What are you hearing about the coronavirus, and what are some things that we should be doing to prepare?
I think one of the very good websites that you can go to on YouTube is called MedCram, MEDCRAM. And they reference on there, they go to the Johns Hopkins coronavirus map. So if you go to MedCram, a pulmonologist runs this site. He has an ongoing educational update for physicians who want to be in the know. So MEDCRAM, that's one word on YouTube, and MedCram will come up, and every day he does a YouTube update. He's excellent. He talks about the current numbers, the worldwide exposure, and being a pulmonologist, he's a specialist in management of upper respiratory and, of course, the acute respiratory distress syndrome in the unfortunate very small percentage, mostly in the elderly. If they do get the coronavirus, this is what they will pass from which is the acute respiratory distress syndrome. And that is also associated with multiple organ failure as the patient succumbs to the breakdown of the cell membranes and is undergoing severe oxidative free radical damage. So this is a wonderful site, and I check it every day. Last weekend he was on call for the intensive care unit, so he didn't update over the weekend. So yesterday, Tuesday, was his first update in the past 3 days, and it was excellent. And we want to point out that in America, the risk still is reported as low, but the physician on MedCram said this is the time for local doctors, clinicians to teach their patients what to do if you are concerned that you're coming down with a cold or a cold with a fever. And his suggestion, along with the consensus of all the pulmonologists, infectious disease, and therapists that are worldwide now in the CDC and the National Institutes of Health for communicable diseases, are suggesting if you have a cold, you probably just have a cold. If you have a cold and you have a concern, you would have that concern if you have a fever, and that fever being over 100.5.
100.5.
100.5. And then instead of going to the urgent care or the emergency room, they request that you should make a call first to the clinic or the urgent care or the emergency room and explain to them, I'm coughing, I have a sore throat, I feel achy, and I do have a fever. What should I do? And many times over the phone, the physician can assess very clearly whether or not you are in a category that should be seen. So we're encouraging our patients, if you have concern, to call us, and that only if you have a measured fever above 100.5 and you have questions about whether or not you should be seen. Of course, we're going to recommend therapies here that should be quite helpful and negate any need for you to come in, which we've been telling you about. If you look on some of our YouTubes on how to boost your immune system, what to do for the flu season, and it's all the same.
Right.
We have the new 50,000 capsule of vitamin D.
Yes.
High dose vitamin D for 5 to 7 days, one a day. Then we would ask you to stay at home if you feel ill or prevent transmitting your cold. We would ask you to be low carb because sugar, juices,
depresses your immune system.
This depresses your immune system for 10 hours. If you have 10 teaspoons in a standard juice or Coca-Cola 12 ounce, that'll depress your immune system for 10 hours. So low carb, okay? So also we would encourage you to get an IV of vitamin C. Call us and come on in for our vitamin C. If you have a family member, they do not have to be a patient here, and they can get, what's the strength of the IV they get if they're a family member but not a patient here?
If you haven't been seen by a doctor here and had your labs done, because there are some things we want to screen for, you can go as high as 12,500 milligrams or 12.5 grams of vitamin C, which is a huge amount of vitamin C.
Yeah, and we'll get to that later in the research, how powerful that is. So you can come in and get a vitamin C. Of course, oral supplemental vitamin C is very good. But if you take oral supplemental vitamin C, you tend to get diarrhea. So that's why we go straight to the IV, and we can achieve blood levels that are very high and very protective against the damage. We also would encourage you to drink a lot of water and to rest if you need to. And then we do have other supplements that are very helpful in your general well-being. Viracid is put out by Orthomolecular. Viracid is an herbal antiviral that has been put in studies pit against those treated with Tamiflu, and actually the Viracid herbal group did better. So we have many things that are helpful. Argentin, which is a silver liquid formulation,
Hydrosol silver.
is hydrosol, which means it's nanoparticulate, which is much better than colloidal. Over the counter, you can get colloidal silver, and I think Argentin comes as a half strength over the counter as sovereign silver,
Yes.
okay, which is valuable. But of course, the full strength would be here available with us. So there's many things you can do, but keep your carbs low, drink your water, call up, for a little vitamin C IV booster, bring a family member in if you're concerned, take your extra vitamin D for 5 to 7 days, and you should be doing well.
Right. So we sort of covered in one fell swoop prevention and how to avoid getting the cold, the flu, the coronavirus, and also some treatment things. You mentioned things such as low carb, low sugar, things that depress your immune system, depress your white blood cell, natural killer cell. So we want our immune system to be boosted at times like this.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned some supplements we can take, high dose vitamin D, vitamin C. You can certainly get an IV. You can do all of these things preventatively, as well as if you're coming down with something. And you mentioned if you have a cold or a flu during this time, before you immediately just go to urgent care or go to the emergency room or even your doctor's office, pick up the phone and call and find out what their protocol is. One, because if you are sick or infected, we don't want you to spread that without at least some warning as to us being prepared for you.
Right.
But also, if your immune system is low, you are going into an area where we work in healthcare. There's a lot of germs and people coming in sick too. You could catch something else or
It's
something
to protect
worse.
you as well.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Because the likelihood it's a low risk at this time, and we think much of this can be handled at home. I do want to put a framework here. Last year's influenza from the fall of 2018 to the winter and then into the spring of 2019, last year's flu season, there were estimated by the CDC 43 million people that caught the flu last year. 43 million in the United States alone. Out of that 43 million, about 600,000 were hospitalized. Again, mostly the elderly. And out of that 600,000, there were 61,000 deaths last year due to the flu. 61,000 deaths in the United States. And so we're talking about numbers regarding the coronavirus in perspective that are still at very low risk and low numbers. And so wash your hands, cough into your Kleenex or your handkerchief
Or your elbow.
or your elbow, yeah. And don't do so much hugging and handshaking at this time. But let's keep this in perspective.
Yes, I think most public health officials and health centers are saying right now, go about your lives as normal, but let's practice some heightened awareness, some heightened hygiene practices. It's always a good reminder for me, how often we touch our face, how dirty the surfaces are, and to wash our hands. It's a very important step.
Right.
Okay. Now, why don't we talk a little bit about some of the research that you've mentioned that's come out recently regarding IV vitamin C and the coronavirus specifically.
Yes, I have actually 6 articles here. I'll start back February 13th, and this is from Compounding Pharmacists publication. And in this it says vitamin C is significant to the human body and plays a role in reducing inflammatory response and also helps to boost the immune system. Because intravenous administration of vitamin C has a higher absorption rate than when taken orally or through supplementation. In a study, modest amounts of supplemental vitamin C resulted in an 80% decrease in deaths among the severely ill hospitalized respiratory disease patients. And so that article will be available here for your reference. Maybe we can put it in the notes as well. And then more recently, Dr. Gifford Jones on March 2nd wrote in an article stating that the high-dose vitamin C is indeed been used for decades, many, about 40, 50 years in the United States. Many physicians, including myself, have been using high-dose vitamin C. He points out here that animals normally produce about 5,000 milligrams or 5 grams of vitamin C daily. Humans cannot produce our own vitamin C, and if an animal is injured, the animal will logarithmically produce about 100 times more, or 100 grams, 100,000 milligrams, to help them ward off the injury or the illness. And so he goes through the protection against cell damage and spreading.
Just a reminder, if you have any questions, this is live and you're watching us live, you can post your questions in the chat section of the video. We are looking for those.
And there were 3 intravenous vitamin C research studies approved for treating COVID-19 in the Chinese and now in South Korea. And this was published Wednesday, February 26, 2020 by Orthomolecular News. The intravenous vitamin C is already being employed in China against COVID-19. Its director is a Dr. Richard Z. Cheng, C-H-E-N-G, M.D., Ph.D., and he's the associate director for their university, their medical school. And also many other physicians were listed, but one of them I know is Dr. Thomas Levy. Anyway, they're using 12,000 to 24,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C intravenously. And 12,000, we have the 12,500 milligram IV.
That's our immunity IV that anyone can walk in and get.
And our patients go up as high as 25,000 milligrams or 25 grams on a routine basis if we have labs, so we can give them more. But it looks like the 12,000 is doing the job. The doctor also specifically calls for the immediate use of vitamin C for prevention of coronavirus. A second clinical trial of intravenous vitamin C was announced in China on February 13th. This second study, says Dr. Chen, they plan to give only 6,000 milligrams a day and 12,000 milligrams for the moderate to severe cases. The news media, this is March 1st, came out with some critique of this, but again, I've been using high-dose vitamin C up to 100,000 milligrams or 100 grams.
Yes.
Commonly, we use 25 grams or 25,000, 50 grams or 50,000 milligrams. And so they're just not informed. But anyway, the response to this by China's I don't know how to pronounce this, said Zhitong University, the second hospital they're doing the study, they're saying high-dose vitamin C achieved good results in clinical applications. We believe that for patients with severe neonatal pneumonia and for critically ill patients, vitamin C treatment should be initiated as soon as possible after admission. High-dose vitamin C can not only improve antiviral levels, but more importantly, can prevent and treat acute lung injury and acute respiratory distress. And again, this was another Orthomolecular News.
And this is talking about both prevention and treatment.
And treatment, yes. And I suppose these two are rehashing similar comments. Again, Natural News published February 21, 2020. The key mechanism for fatality associated with the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 is its propensity to cause acute organ failure and especially pulmonary failure or acute respiratory distress syndrome. The rapid release of free radicals, cytokines, and other damaging hallmarks of acute respiratory distress syndrome creates an onslaught of oxidative stress that can lead to cellular injury, organ failure, and death. Intravenous vitamin C, however, being a powerful antioxidant, can prevent these types of oxidative damage. And again, this is published February 21 by Ethan Huff in Natural News. And I suppose we also have an article published in the Pulmonary Critical Care Medicine. This was published on what date? I think
we are seeing your questions come in on the chat section, so we'll get right to those momentarily.
This was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, October of 2019. I previously referenced this article. There is a study with the anachronism Citrus-Ali study, and this Citrus-Ali study means vitamin C infusion for treatment in sepsis-induced acute lung injury. And in this Journal of the American Medical Association, they actually said that there was a remarkable reduction in the 28-day all-cause mortality rate of death, that is, among the patients who received the vitamin C, whereas there was a 46% death rate in the placebo group. There was only a 29.8% in the treatment with vitamin C group. So I think that's enough articles along with our 40 years of experience. Vitamin C is safe. It works to help stop all that cell membrane damage, which we're experts in here as well. We have it available, and we would just encourage you to follow MedCram, MEDCRAM, on YouTube and listen to the doctor, the pulmonologist. And you have all this resources available. But I think you're very hearty and healthy and will do well.
Right. I am planning a business trip. I'm going out of town tomorrow, actually, on a plane. So I'm going to make my appointment to get an IV and give my immune system a nice little boost.
Good.
Okay, it looks like we are getting some questions in here. I have a question regarding vitamin D. It looks like taking 50,000 units of vitamin D every day for 5 days, can it cause an overdose of vitamin D3 along with high levels of toxins?
I have never seen high-dose vitamin D used 50,000 international units, one a day for 5 to 7 days, cause a problem. Never. And I've been using that dose for years here.
Okay. Simple answer.
Now, I remind you, it's only 5 to 7 days, okay? And that's to give your immune system, because vitamin D is very powerful in raising the lymphocyte activity, and it's the lymphocytes that fight viruses.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question regarding the herbal supplement that you mentioned, Virusid. That was compared to the one you mentioned that was compared to Tamiflu?
Yes,
okay.
In studies, yeah.
That's called Virusid.
Yes.
And thank you for typing that in the chat section there. What dose of the silver does the doctor recommend?
I usually use a tablespoon and I'll swish it in my mouth and then I'll just swallow it because it's so safe you can swallow this. It comes as a spray, so I can spray my hands or even my face. You could spray your children or their face, even surfaces, but it could stain. Silver can stain, so you got to be careful on what surfaces you spray it or rub it.
It has a nasal spray version as well, too, to really help.
Exactly, and I use that as well. And I use that tablespoon at least, let's say if I'm ill, I would say 4 times a day for the 5 to 7 days. Mm-hmm. But if I have any sense that a patient came in and I saw them and they coughed on me and so forth, I will squirt my nose and I will take a swig, and I'll do that for 2 days. And I'm always taking about 15,000 international units of vitamin D every day. And I usually get an IV once or twice a month. So that's how I stay well.
Right, and we're talking about a silver hydrosol, not to be confused with a colloidal silver. Colloidal silver associated with that disease, if you take too much of it, or condition I should say, where your skin can change colors. Right. The silver hydrosol is a nano silver particulate. It's been very well studied to be safe and effective, much better absorbed. I keep some by my desk whenever I feel like I'm coming down with something, and I take a tablespoon or 2 at a time, or a couple milliliters, basically half of a shot. I put it in my mouth. I try to hold it under my tongue for absorption. Yeah. I swallow it, I gargle it, I'm sprayed up my nose. Very good stuff. I have my kids using it right now as well, too.
As well?
Yeah.
How's Devin doing?
Devin's doing great. He's recovered.
Okay, great. All right, good.
Played baseball last night. Okay, looks like we have another question here. I believe you recommended D-Hist for a cold or flu. What would that also be helpful for the coronavirus?
Well, only in the sense that the nasal congestion, the inflamed sinus membranes and stuff, and it works as an antihistamine, and some of the mast cells in your mucous membranes will discharge and swell up. So I did and always use DHIS. I use it every day of my life. I'm a B positive blood and I tend to have many allergies. So I take DHIS along with one Aller DHQ every day of my life just to manage seasonal allergies for myself. You could also make an argument that taking enzymes, the systemic enzymes, which I take all the time, Vascuzyme and or Vitalzyme. These are taken on an empty stomach and they're absorbed throughout the body and your sinuses to disinflame and remove debris away. So you can make an argument for that too. So I just finished my bottle of Viracid, so I'm all done with that. I did have a cold about 10 days ago and I was able to get through it and did fine. Yeah. And I'm 66, so.
And certainly having allergies is only going to further weaken your immune system. So if you can take natural DHIS or something like that to improve your body's response to allergies and histamines, you're going to give your immune system a better chance to fight off anything else that comes along.
Right.
Okay. We have a question from a viewer in Illinois. Where do you suggest vitamin C intravenous therapy in the Midwest? I would say I think Google's going to be your friend there. Right. I would be searching for IV therapy near me or IV hydration therapy. Those kind of key terms. You should hopefully be able to pick up someone in your area that is doing this, because most hospitals are not going to offer this as a therapeutic or preventative treatment. You could search for integrative medicine or integrative doctors near me, and
they could do acam.org.
Yes, ACAM. That's acam.org. They are a great resource for integrative type of physicians.
Like myself.
Exactly. Right, but I would look on Google for IV therapy, IV vitamin C near me, that type of thing. I don't know about your area in Illinois, but here in Southern California, there are many pop-up, they call them hydration rooms or IV hydration rooms, where you can walk in without an appointment, without a prescription, and get some level at least of vitamin C. And I would ask them how much vitamin C are they putting in there, what type of ascorbic acid, I'm assuming, how many milligrams or grams. Because they might have 2 grams, they might have 4 grams, or 12, hopefully, upwards of 12.
Right. Up in northern Illinois is where Dr. Mercola used to have his original practice in the Chicagoland area. He's in Florida right now. And I knew Dr. Mercola. He was at Loyola when I was at Chicago Med. Anyway, long and the short of it is, if you're in the Chicagoland area, you could look up Dr. Mercola's practice, and that might be a help.
Right. Let's see if we have a couple more minutes here for a few more questions. Is 10,000 units of D3 too much? I think we answered that earlier. We're recommending as much as 50,000 units of vitamin D for 5 to up to 7 days.
Up to 7 days.
I take 10,000. I use vitamin D every single day. Now I am seeing a doctor at least quarterly where I get my blood levels checked. I've never seen it too high, so I know that's fine for me. And it looks like we have maybe time for one more question here. Do you know if it's covered by insurance? So I'm assuming you're asking about the IV vitamin C. So for something to be covered by insurance, first a physician would have to order it. So you'd have to see a doctor who would give you an order and a diagnosis for that IV. And then whoever's providing the IV would need to be able to bill or give you a super bill to turn into your insurance company. So you need a diagnosis and an appropriate CPT code for that IV. So the short answer is it is possible depending on the condition and the type of IV that you're getting, but I'll tell you, there is no billable code for IV vitamin C. No. There are billable codes for IV hydration or the nursing time that help him pay for that. But you can't just bill insurance for a vitamin C. So you're probably, most cases in the United States, going to be paying out of pocket for this. There are offices like ours where in certain conditions, in certain cases, if you have the right diagnosis, it can be covered by insurance. What company makes Aller DHQ? Aller DHQ is made by Zymogen. That's Zymogen with an X. Aller DHQ. Now, we were speaking about natural DHIS earlier. That's made by Ortho Molecular Products, OMP.
Right.
And I think that is just about all the time we have for today. Dr. Elthorpe has to get on to her patients today, but if you didn't get your question answered here today, or if you have more questions, feel free to save them for next week. We're here every Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific time. You can also email us, office@tlcdoctors.com, and put in the subject line you have a question for the live Q&A. We will be here next week for you, and our office is Tustin Longevity Center. We're located in Orange County, California, and you can Google us or give us a call at 714-544-1521. Thank you so much for your time. Doctor, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Talon.
All right, we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.